Tonight, hundreds out of work as GM dims the lights at a key electric vehicle plant. The temporary shutdown and the warning signs for a sector on edge.
We didn't think it could get any worse. There's not many nails left to put in the coffin.
Why the assembly line is pausing production. Another short shift from the campaign trail to tackle tariffs.
The initial signs of slowing in the global economy.
The Canada-US timeline for negotiations. Also, 2 disasters in 2 days. What we now know about the latest American tragedies in the sky. And ambivalent about visiting Canadian tourist hotspots, will our southern neighbors be welcomed with open arms? Plus, the hype over a future hockey star.
Very excited to see him here, and we're looking forward to seeing him in a half jersey and on the ice.
How a highly anticipated debut is drawing a fan frenzy.
We love you, Canada!
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. There are more problems for the country's troubled auto sector today, affecting hundreds of workers. A temporary shutdown at GM's Ingersoll, Ontario plant is being blamed on low demand for electric vehicles, not U.S. tariffs. But whatever the reason, it's sending a chill through many homes tonight. CTV's Heather Wright is in the community with more on what the automaker has to say.
Workers say the rumors had been circulating and today they were confirmed. General Motors is shutting down its plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, temporarily laying off 1,200 workers.
It's like a pretty hard shot to the gut for a Friday.
The closure is not permanent, with workers set to return briefly in May before the plant closes for retooling over the summer. It's set to reopen in October, but with one less shift, which will result in the permanent loss of roughly 500 jobs.
We didn't think it could get any worse. There's not many nails left to put in the coffin.
The company says this decision had nothing to do with Donald Trump's tariffs, but with supply and demand. The Bright Drop electric delivery van is assembled here, a vehicle with slumping sales and large inventories. In a statement, General Motors says it's making adjustments to balance inventory and align production schedules with current demand. Today, Ontario's premier urged government agencies to consider the EV delivery truck as a way to bolster sales.
We're going to make sure we support the workers and make sure that we get government, especially Canada Post, to pick up some of these vehicles, because that's what it's geared for.
It's a suggestion the union has also made.
They put a lot of money into our plant to get us started. It only makes sense that some of the government agencies use our truck, or at least price them out and try them, get them on the roads, let people see them, and then hopefully they take off from there.
General Motors says it is committed to this plant and the Bright Drop electric truck. Meanwhile, the union representing workers at Stellantis in Windsor said today the plant will reopen April 21st for at least 2 weeks. Heather Wright, CTV News, Ingersoll, Ontario.
Just as news of the GM plant closure was breaking, Mark Carney was wrapping another cabinet meeting on Canada-US relations, stepping off the campaign trail again following a week of Trump-inflicted global economic turmoil. CTV's Judy Trin takes a look at reaction from leaders.
It's not working. Thank you.
Another urgent cabinet meeting on the changing dynamics of the trade war as the U.S. and China escalate.
The initial signs of slowing in the global economy.
But the Prime Minister didn't provide much of an update. Canada still faces U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos, and is retaliating. Nothing changed for Canada when Donald Trump paused global reciprocal tariffs earlier this week.
We left instructions for officials to ensure that the next government, whichever government Canadians choose, will be in the best possible position for negotiations with the United States.
Around the same time that Mark Carney left without taking questions, a GM plant in Ingersoll, Ontario was pausing production, citing slumping sales. Later, Carney posted it was deeply painful news and the government is fighting to defend the auto sector.
Canada lost over 32,000 jobs.
The news also broke after Jagmeet Singh spoke in Ottawa at the Progress Summit. Singh called the layoffs devastating, that it was time to put workers at the heart of Canada's tariff fight-back plan. Only the Conservative leader was close to the impact zone, rallying supporters in Windsor.
Mark Carney is running on the false promise that somehow he can magically handle Trump or control him into doing what he wants.
The Stellantis plant in the border city was the first to halt production after Trump announced tariffs. One auto worker job in Windsor impacts 6 others. At this restaurant, that's on the minds of staff.
Usually a pretty devout NDP voter. Unfortunately, at the federal level, it often feels like I need to vote strategically.
The next leader should definitely take a focus on Canadian, keeping jobs here, making sure that we're more self-reliant.
All 3 leaders will be back in the capital this weekend. Their focus, to prepare for the upcoming French and English debates next week. Heather.
Judy Trin in Ottawa, thank you. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pledging to unleash the country's economic potential, presenting a stimulus plan wrapped in messaging reminiscent of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. But as CTV's Rachel Aiello tells us, that parallel comes as Poilievre faces criticism from a former Harper staffer.
It's a Canada First economic action plan.
It's a plan the Conservative Party hopes would boost Canada's economic activity by $500 billion over the next 5 years. It includes Pierre Poilievre's promises to unlock resources, offer tax cuts, and empower entrepreneurs. That he is branding it as a revival of Canada's last Conservative Prime Minister's economic action plan is also notable.
It will be modeled in a lot of ways off the incredible success that Stephen Harper had in the 08-09 crisis. And that's why I'm rolling out that plan today.
Harper's version was similarly a package of policies aimed at promoting economic growth after the recession. And signs promoting the projects funded under it dotted build sites across the country for years.
Being Prime Minister is a trust.
After the former Prime Minister endorsed his former parliamentary secretary in this election, harkening back to the Harper era appears to be a strategy Poilievre's campaign plans to keep up. But one of Harper's former top staffers
blew a 25-point lead.
Has also been highly critical of the current Conservative campaign.
You know, when I talk about campaign malpractice, blowing a lead that big and your response being, I don't believe in the polls, I don't know, I think it's kind of weak sauce.
Asked to respond today to that comment about his lost lead in the polls, Poilievre pushed back.
Liberals and lobbyists want me to stop talking about high food prices. Well, I'm not going to do that.
Poilievre went on in that answer to suggest he has no plans to stop talking about affordability issues on the trail, as he makes his case for a new government that's taking a page out of the playbook of an old one. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Hamilton, Ontario.
Is this your last election?
I'm focused on the campaign in front of me. Canada works best when one party doesn't have all the power.
Meantime, Jagmeet Singh sidestepping questions today about his future as leader of the New Democrats. In recent days, Singh has dropped his pitch to be the next prime minister, but insists Canadians need his party in Ottawa to hold the government to account. New poll numbers point to an east versus west divide as the Liberals widen their lead over the Conservatives to 6 points.
In Eastern Canada, it's all about the Liberals. In the West, you know, the prairie provinces, the Conservative heartland, the Conservatives, you know, are ahead by more than 20 percentage points, and BC's a toss-up.
The Nanos research poll shows the Liberals up to 43.6% and the Conservatives slightly down to 37.8%, while the NDP is at 8.7%.
Coming up on CTV National News, I'm Adrian Gobriel in Goderich, Ontario.
This is the most important election out of any.
From healthcare to housing and security.
It's a great big vicious revolving circle.
Why the number of people sleeping on the street has become an election ballot issue in the community known as Canada's prettiest town. That story coming up on CTV National News.
Now to a disturbing attack in Vancouver, where the police department says 2 officers were set on fire while trying to make an arrest. Surveillance video partially captured the incident. Police pursued the suspect on foot, allegedly wanted on outstanding warrants in BC. It's believed the 40-year-old man used a flammable liquid to set their uniforms on fire while fleeing an arrest. Vancouver police say officers avoided serious harm. The suspect, who is in jail, was treated for burns. China hit back at the U.S. today, hiking tariffs on American goods to 125%. Despite that, the White House says it's optimistic there will be a deal.
The president made it very clear when the United States is punched, he will punch back harder, and he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker.
The tit-for-tat trade war. The U.S. has imposed 145% levies on imported Chinese goods while pausing global tariffs on other nations. A new rule for travelers, including Canadians visiting the U.S., is now in effect. If you're there for more than 30 days, you have to be registered with the American government or face serious consequences. CTV's Sarah Plowman on what it means for snowbirds.
Canadians in the U.S. for more than 30 days have a new task on their to-do list. Make sure they're registered with the U.S. government.
Failure to comply with this is a crime, punishable by fines, imprisonment, or both.
On Thursday, a judge cleared the way for Donald Trump's executive order aimed at curbing illegal migration that requires foreign nationals in the country 30 days or more to register with U.S. immigration and carry the proof with them in their personal possession at all times. The policy took effect today.
We just feel like it's not necessary and it's a waste of resources and it's causing heartache.
Karen and Craig Strong from Ontario winter in Florida. They're already registered because they flew into the U.S. and were issued an electronic record automatically. Generally, that's not the case for those who drive.
It's caused some of our friends who are Canadians who drive, particularly, to make sure they got home before today.
Experts' advice is to check if you were issued a record called an I-94.
If you've been issued an I-94, you don't need to worry. You're good. You're registered already. You're considered to be registered.
Those who provide insurance and advice to snowbirds have heard mixed reaction about the registration process.
That it's not a big deal. It's easy to check your I-94 status online. It's easy to register and create an account. We hear from other people who are having a very difficult time with it and are very frustrated by it.
The Canadian Snowbird Association is pushing for the U.S. to rescind its policy.
We see the rule as completely unnecessary. There is no reciprocal requirement of U.S. citizens staying in Canada, regardless of their admission period.
While other foreign nationals are required to provide fingerprints when they register, Canadians are exempt. Heather.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Duty-free stores are now caught in the crossfire of a tariff war. Sales are plummeting at the border locations as fewer Canadians travel to the United States. Officials say sales are down almost 50% across Canada, with some remote crossings showing an 80% decline. They're now calling on the federal government for financial help. There are fears the ongoing trade war and the negativity between Canada and the U.S. could impact the number of U.S. travelers picking this country as a vacation spot. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on what that could mean for our tourism industry.
The busy tourism season seems to never end in Niagara Falls. Some Americans arrived north of the border with questions about how they would be received by Canadians.
I know some of our friends mentioned that, if we were a little worried, but
how's the reception?
Pretty good, yeah.
I have noticed it a little bit. Every time I come here, I always like to check parking lots and stuff. Like, okay, where's everybody from? I think out of 100 cars, I've only seen like one New York plate.
The tourism operator Dennis Campbell is hearing many Americans are growing nervous about traveling to Canada.
We've been monitoring it very closely with our reservation staff. In fact, the Ontario Tourism Association monitors this monthly. They take samples throughout the U.S. and it didn't show up until this month.
This uncertainty around American visitors coming to Canada comes at a time when the tourism industry in this province was anticipating a busy summer travel season.
We are over 40% ahead year over year of last year, and 2024 was our best year ever.
A new poll shows Americans likely have nothing to worry about, especially if they visit the Nova Scotia capital. 75% of people living in Halifax say they will be either more or as welcoming as they were in the past.
If someone comes and they support Trump and the person here doesn't support Trump, they're worried about those kind of conversations. But in general, the vast majority of people say they'll be welcoming.
Margaret Chapman says despite the strain strains being felt between the two countries, most Canadians understand the value of tourism and will likely roll out the welcome mat and treat Americans with kindness. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Coming up, welcoming a hockey hero.
Very excited to see him here, and we're looking forward to seeing him in a Habs jersey and on the ice.
What's driving the incredible excitement behind Montreal's newest star? Plus, heartbreaking diagnosis. The medical news a well-known actor is sharing with the world. Three people are dead, another person injured after a small plane crashed in Boca Raton, Florida. Cell phone video captured the plane flying low and erratically before crashing on a busy street near the Boca airport. The FAA said the plane was headed to Tallahassee, but it appeared to circle back. The cause of the crash is under investigation. We are learning more from U.S. officials about the tragic crash of a tourist helicopter that appeared to break up in mid-air over New York City, plunging into the Hudson River.
We do not have a preliminary cause. That takes time. Our team focused on helicopter airworthiness and structures and systems is at the facility with the wreckage, doing the wreckage exam.
Among the dead, 2 executives from Spain and their 3 young children. The family was on a sightseeing trip celebrating the mother's birthday. The pilot, a former Navy SEAL, was also killed. A Louisiana court has ruled in favor of the U.S. government in the controversial detention of a Columbia student. The immigration judge said Mahmoud Halil can be deported after the government said his beliefs compromise American foreign policy interests. The prominent Palestinian activist and U.S. permanent resident was arrested on campus last month. A heartbreaking medical revelation today from actor Eric Dane that he's been diagnosed with ALS. The 52-year-old says he's grateful for his family's support as they navigate this new chapter. Dane rose to fame as Dr. Mark McSteamy Sloan on Grey's Anatomy. Prolific Canadian filmmaker Ted Kotcheff has died.
I'm starting to dislike you.
In a career that spans 6 decades, Kotcheff directed films like First Blood, introducing the world to Rambo, and the adaptation of the novel The Apprenticeship of Judy Kravitz, as well as, of course, Weekend at Bernie's. His daughter confirmed the Toronto native died in Mexico yesterday. He was 94. Still ahead, the rookie causing a fan riot. Why this Russian up-and-comer has hockey fans over the moon in Montreal. Expectations are high for Canadian teams in the NHL playoffs this season. For fans of the Montreal Canadiens, though, it's reached a new frontier. Here's CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Jean-Pierre Boschman on the hopes a rookie player could help them land the cup.
Evidence of Montreal's peak Demidov craze unfolded at Toronto's Pearson Airport. Fans rushed to greet Canadiens rookie Ivan Demidov as he touched down on Canadian soil. The 19-year-old Russian player's flight was, for a time, the most tracked in the world.
Oh my!
Now Montrealers are eager for him to hit the ice.
Very excited to see him here, and we're looking forward to seeing him in a Habs jersey and on the ice.
Now the Stars have aligned for Demidov to be a demigod to devoted Canadiens fans.
Ivan Demidov.
At the 2024 NHL entry draft, Quebec icon Céline Dion announced the Habs had drafted the winger with impressive stats.
And an unbelievable city like Montreal, it's crazy.
Demidov was playing on Russian ice, not expected to be released until next season. But his arrival was magically, some say, moved up, just as chances of the Canadiens making the playoffs rose. Businesses like Sports Crescent are scrambling to score merchandise to meet demand.
I got calls, I got a visit, people asking for the T-shirt or the jersey. I said the T-shirt will be available by Monday, but the jersey next year.
Not all highly anticipated rookies have lived up to expectations, though. Take even the great Guy Lafleur. He didn't have the first explosive season many had hoped for. Demidov's teammates have his back, working to ease the pressure.
Fans can be excited, but it's important to temper expectations as well. You know, he's going to be learning a lot.
But turning down this fever pitch enthusiasm isn't easy at a time when so many say they need good news. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Still ahead, small town, big issues. What has folks in a coastal community talking this election? Goderich, Ontario is a small coastal town nestled on the shores of Lake Huron. Rich in history and culture and billed as the prettiest town, but speak to residents and there are pressing issues complicating the picture. CTV's Adrian Gobriel ventured to Goderich to find out what's on people's minds during this election campaign.
Since the mid-1950s, this county courthouse clock has chimed at a steady, predictable pitch. It's a tone that's reflective of the pace of life in this quaint Western Ontario town. Located along the eastern shore of Lake Huron, Goderich is home to a historic town square that's actually an octagon. Either way, it leads to the center of this community.
Hi, sugar. How you guys doing?
Where you'll find Steve and Mary's on the square. Inside, they serve up comfort food, warm hugs, and a healthy side of small town hospitality.
How would you describe the people of Goderich, Ontario?
Very passionate, very loving, caring, supportive.
You get to talk to people.
Yeah.
You see somebody walking down the street, you wave.
With an election on order, there's plenty of passionate discussions taking place inside the diner.
They're afraid they're going to lose their jobs.
The mental stress of not knowing if they're going to have a job next week because they work in car manufacturing.
Homelessness has also become an election issue. For a town of 8,000, there's about 130 people in the surrounding county who are on the streets.
If you're seeing it in small towns, if you treat it by a ratio of population, we have the same issue that some of the cities do.
Expanding Goderich's port for more international business is also on the election docket.
These ships behind me arrive here at the port of Goderich from around the globe to pick up this community's main export, salt, from the world's largest underground salt mine.
It's below Lake Huron, the same size as the CN Tower, how far you go down below surface. So it employs up to 600 people.
From the sandy shore to the historic mine, the people here are also salt of the earth.
We do only have haddock here, just a heads up.
Inside the old salty fish and chips, just steps from port, the cost of living is Tamika Walters' ballot box issue.
We need a lot more jobs. We get places opening up like Stacked and Starbucks, but those are all minimum wage jobs. Like, we can't live off of minimum wage.
Others we spoke with shared concerns that range from access to health care, affordable housing, to rural infrastructure. As the windmills turn in this part of the country, so does another federal election cycle. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Goderich, Ontario.
That is our newscast for this Friday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.